Hi guys, my name's Natalie and welcome back to Crime Vlogs Weekly. This week we'll be discussing the case of the Facebook killer. As we've already learned from the case of Breck Bednar, we need to approach the online world with caution. If you've not already seen my video on Breck Bednar's case, then do go check it out. People can pretend to be anyone online and that has the potential for danger. For Ashley Hall, a relationship she struck up on Facebook would lead to her death. A lot of people nowadays end up meeting and falling in love online via platforms like Facebook, Tinder, Grindr, the list goes on. Ashley Hall struck up a conversation with someone she thought was around her age, and the truth is, that wasn't the case at all. Ashley Hall was just this normal 17-year-old girl who was looking for friendship or perhaps even a relationship on Facebook. The eldest of 3 children, Ashley's mum Andrea would describe her as caring, loving, honest and kind-hearted. Ashley was in her final year of college and she was studying childcare. I'm sure many of you will feel the same when a victim is in a caregiving role or, is training to be a nurse or training to be a doctor. It feels like a double blow. Like, this person was selfless to go into a career where they're essentially just caring for someone else. Unfortunately, her life was cut short. Ashley was working towards becoming a nursery nurse and she would spend some of her time on Facebook. And it was on Facebook that she struck up a conversation with a 16-year-old boy, or so she thought. It's believed that on the 25th of October 2009, Ashley went to meet this boy in person. Ashley suffered from low self-esteem, so it must have been really nice for someone to be paying so much attention to her and, obviously saying all these lovely, wonderful things to her. And she built up a trust with this guy, so much so that she was willing to meet him in person. In reality though, the person behind the fake Facebook profile was a man called Peter Chapman. Peter Chapman was 32 years old, he was unemployed, some would call it a drifter, and he lived in his car. It was found that he had multiple accounts of sexual offences, which first started at the age of 15, and 4 years later, at the age of 19, he was to serve a 7-year prison sentence for raping 2 prostitutes whilst holding them at knife point. It's all too common in these types of cases that if the police had intervened sooner, then maybe this wouldn't have happened and he would have been kept off the streets. But at the same time, his first crime wasn't enough to commit him to life in prison. So eventually he was going to get out and, clearly he wasn't about to change his ways and that rehabilitation probably wasn't going to work with him, and that no matter how much time, the judges gave him for that first sentencing, he would have eventually got out anyway. And even if it wasn't Ashley in this case, it could have been someone else. If I was calling the shots, then anyone who rapes someone should get life in prison. I mean, you're not taking someone's life, but you are taking their life in other ways. It seems to be the case that Ashley was smothered to death after being raped. Her body was found on the side of a country road in an area called Sedgefield in County Durham. And morbidly, this was a place known as Lover's Lane. Now, Peter Chapman was eventually arrested and sentenced at court to life imprisonment. He was charged with killing and kidnapping of Ashley and of also not notifying the police of change of address because he was a sex offender. This is something that sex offenders need to do, and this is something that he didn't do. Also emerged that Chapman's ex-fiancée, who he'd also wooed over Facebook, was the spitting image of Ashley. Like I said, Chapman was sentenced to life and I hope he never gets out. I mean, I've said it before on the Breck Bednar case that there's definitely educational bodies that are sort of spreading the message about being safe online to kids and teenagers, but it's something that parents need to do as well, and we all need to be more active in, being careful on the internet, like not giving out your information and certainly not meeting someone who you don't know online. If you do meet someone, make sure it's done in a public place. It doesn't matter how well you know this person online, they could be spinning you lies. I actually have an experience of meeting a guy online via Facebook. Thankfully, he was a lovely person, but my mum and dad at the time intervened and said, we're gonna drop you off and pick you up. And they did drop me off, waited to see that this guy was legitimate, and then they picked me up a little bit later on. And again, we also stayed in a very busy place. We literally just walked around the shopping centre for half an hour. Also, that relationship did not work out. I was not really interested in the guy, and I texted my mum to say, come and get me early, please. But he was a lovely guy, he was really nice. However, that was a positive experience. If the guy hadn't been who he said he was, and my parents hadn't, you know, taken that step to drop me off and pick me up, then naively I probably would have met that person. I would have hoped that we still would have met in a public place, but you know, I was 14, 15 at the time, and you know, sort of my awareness of the world and you know how dangerous it can be both online, offline, is something that I probably would have done similar to Ashley. It could have easily been a different story for me, and I was naive to think that something like that could not happen, you know? I'm glad that there's justice for Ashley Hall. Sadly that her life was taken, but that we did find the killer, and that also hopefully people have learnt from this and we can continue to educate especially the younger generation about being careful on the internet, especially as they are growing up with this technology. Let me know in the comments what you think about this case, and also let me know if you've heard any more information or research that I've missed out. Make sure to also let me know what cases you want me to cover in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, clicking that bell notification to be notified when I upload a post, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye guys!